Okay, I'm going to say this again. Page 29 through 40 in your user guide is information on how to change your user information. And so you would go to My Profile, and there are these 8 different items that you can go through. So user information. I am logged in as the primary contact, and you notice I don't have an add edit button next to my phone number or my email address. That's because I'm primary, and for some reason OPTIS doesn't want you to change that. You could change what's known as your preferences by clicking on this add edit. And it's really, really simple, but it's saying that you want to be notified by email. That's your only choice. If by chance, for some reason you prefer HTML over plain text when you receive emails, you could tell OPTIS that here. If you don't check either one of these, the default is HTML. And then email application receipt, yes or no. Eventually when we turn on the functionality of being able to apply for grants within OPTIS, you would fill out your grant application, submit it to us, and then if this box was checked yes, you would get from within OPTIS an automatically generated email saying your application has been received. That's all that is. And then the maximum download file name length is used to limit the length of names on things that you're attaching to OPTIS. So if you have a tendency to have really, really long names or locations, if you say put 15 or 20 in here, whatever that long name was would be truncated to 20 characters. If you just leave it alone, I think you'll be fine. I don't know, I don't know what the default is. The default, it says the default is to use the full name of the image as entered. So, and that is just one of those little technical things. If you are trying to attach something that has a really long name and it's not going, it could be that the file name is too long or something. I don't know. And then you can choose either English or English for your language here. I have a feeling when they were doing this in Canada, you could have chosen French, but they took that out. So those are your personal preferences, and then if you wanted that to take, you would just click Submit. Aha. Since I put something in there, I guess it's asking me to, or it's a required field. Okay, so that's user information. If you want to change your login password, we just went over that. Actually, you guys figured it out yourself. Current password, new password, confirm. So you can do this anytime you want, both in train and production. And it's a good idea every once in a while to change it. I think it's good for a year, and if you don't change it for a year, one time you'll log in and it'll just say your password's going to expire. Please select a new one. So this change eResponse keyword. If you are the authorized signatory person for your agency, we will issue you an eResponse keyword. And that's your secret code for when you submit documents, and we'll get to that tomorrow. When you're actually at the very end of creating a document and you're ready to submit it to us, you're required to type in this eResponse keyword. So if you have one and you want to change it for some reason, somebody, and that, that might be an important thing to know, is if someone broke into your desk and found out what your eResponse keyword was, they could actually, if they could get into OPTIS, submit a reimbursement request for you, I guess. So you can change it here.
You actually, when you give the eResponse keyword initially to the person, they have to go in and change it to make it their own.
Yes.
You give them a generic one.
Yes.
That they have to go in and change.
And then anytime after that, if you wanted to change it, you could change it here.
How did that feel? Where are you under my profile still? Oh, okay. Change eResponse.
You don't have it?
No.
Okay. That's because you are logged in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can't.
Probably not as someone who's validated for eResponse, so you don't have that option. You're logged in as yourself?
I am.
Who knows what organization?
No, you have changed. Oh, no active eResponse. So one hasn't been issued to you.
Okay.
So he has the screen, but it says no active eResponse keyword for user. We just haven't given you one yet, so you can't change it. A couple more things about this. Like Jay said, if you request and we approve this eResponse keyword, say I get an email from your boss saying, Patty's the one, I want her to do everything, we'll issue you a keyword. OPTIS generates it automatically, and it's just a random number. And that's what we would send to you. And it's called an unlock keyword, and it's only good for 2 weeks. So before 2 weeks, you have to go in and enter this unlock keyword here, and then make one up for yourself and enter it twice here. So if you don't do that, that unlock one expires, then you'll have to call us again. The other thing to remember is that some of the email functionality in OPTIS isn't working right now. So there's this option you have here, request a new eResponse keyword from registrar, and if you clicked on that, and it would look like an email was going out. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to delete this user's eResponse keyword. It would appear that somebody, the OPTIS administrator or somebody at PTD was receiving this email saying, Charles is seeking a new eResponse keyword. From your end, it looks like it's going out. From our end, we don't see it because we have sort of temporarily disabled some of the email functionality in the system until we got everybody trained, because we didn't want just sort of random, because OPTIS generates emails. We didn't want people receiving emails, because we have their real email addresses in the system, but they may not be trained yet. Then they might receive an email, some random email from OPTIS saying something and not know what it was. So we've turned that off, or we're not using it yet. So both for resetting your login password and your eResponse keyword, you have to email us directly, not from within the system. And I'll mention that again because it's rather confusing. When we get to submitting and creating reimbursement requests and quarterly reports, sometimes you'll have a preparer prepare it and then want to forward it on to the approver. There's also an email box you can check there that says, do you want an email to go to the person that you're forwarding this to so they know to go into OPTIS and look at this document? That one is working. So you would be able to notify, say you create it and you forward it in the system to Jay. Before you click the submit button on the forward, you could click this other little box that would say send email to person responsible for this document, yes. Then he would, not only would it now be in his queue in OPTIS, he would get an email in his inbox saying, so-and-so has done this document, go look at it. So part of the functionality is there, but the password and eResponse keyword resets are not working. So don't, because we've had people, and they've been sitting right here in this room and I've said this, and then they call me and say, 2 weeks ago I sent away for a new password and I still haven't heard back. And that's because we're not getting those. So just remember that. Service information is, we saw this earlier when we were setting people up. This is kind of a holdover from ORPN, where if you're searching for a vendor, you could, and you're trying to apply or procure services of somebody, and you wanted to go in and see what services this agency provided. This is what this is for. I would just ignore it. Location information, again, it's just what counties you do business in. And I think eventually we may use this, or we thought we might use it, but we haven't been so far. So it's really something you can just ignore. Here's your eServices. It's called subscription maintenance. I'm not sure. I think that's, again, a holdover. But you want both of those checked if you want to create documents and or send documents from within the system. And it shows a history of, originally it looks like it was set up as no, and then it was changed to yes. View agreement is not a grant agreement. It's the statement that you agreed to when you agreed to use the system honestly and whatnot. And then registration summary, I already showed you, is just how you're set up in the system. So that's all my profile information. And then my provider details information. This is in, let's see, page 41, kind of through 47 in your binder if you're following along. So my provider details, there's 3 options under here: office information, supplemental information, and organization hierarchy. Office information is where you as a primary user then could change, like I said before, your provider class, the phone number for your agency, or let's say you got a fax machine and you wanted to add your fax number here. You have a website, and when you log into production, if you guys have a website and we don't have it here, you could enter it here. If your address is wrong and whatnot. The very most important thing about this screen is at the very, very bottom where it says primary contact. This is the only place that you can change the primary contact to someone else. And when you first get to this screen, you don't see it because it's one of the screens you have to scroll down. So it's my provider details. I think it was office information, opens up provider information. Then you scroll down to the very bottom, and there's a drop-down menu here, and it defaults to the current primary user. But then if I wanted to make Isaac Newton primary, this is how I would do it. I would just click on his name and hit submit, and he is now primary. And so his navigation menu would now have all the provider information and everything. In a way, it's super easy to do, and in a way, it's kind of hard to find because you don't know it's there, but that's how you change it. If I wanted to make someone the primary contact and I didn't see them here, that's because they're not in my hierarchy. I might have to go add them first and then make them primary. And like I was telling Jay, if Charles has an eResponse keyword and he's validated for eResponse, he has an eResponse keyword, and then there's a change made to the primary contact, it deactivates the eResponse keyword. And I'm pretty sure I'm speaking truthfully. Am I, Jenny?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So you may have to then ask us again for an eResponse keyword if you still wanted one, but because you're changing the primary, it's saying, oh, some big high level thing has happened here, we are going to deactivate that. And you may even get, when you log in, a little notice on the screen that says your eResponse keyword is no longer valid. Primary contact has been changed or something like that. And then, let's see, did I already show you all these? Supplemental information, totally up to you, totally optional. If you want to tell us more about your agency, how long you've been in business, what how you're financed. And again, I think this is a holdover from Orpin. And then organization hierarchy. And you always have to click on view all to see all of it. And again, you can change the date if you want to see what it looked like a year ago or 6 months ago or whatever. So that's my provider details. Any questions about that? No?
Yeah, how do you know of the list of the names? You have the asterisks for the one that is the primary.
Mm-hmm.
How do you distinguish between someone who can generate documents and someone who can just read?
That's a good question. You'd have to go into users and actually open up, click on Isaac Newton and see how he's set up here.
Okay, you can't just look on that
No.
organization chart and see, because the key, what does the key mean?
It just means you have you have a privilege in the system.
Okay.
It's not very helpful. It would be
Okay.
very helpful if it would show right on that screen.
Third one that said this person is generating documents or not.
I've actually logged that in the,
Okay. That's already been taken down.
yeah. But it's one of those things where it's a nice to have. We rank these as, impacting ability to do our job all the way to sure would be nice to have. And that's kind of a sure would be nice to have. So, but I agree, it would be. But since we don't have that, you would have to go into users and then you'd see how it is here. It's a good question. Any other questions? I think we might break for lunch and get out just a few minutes early ahead of the lunch rush or whatever.